guys, Kenny here. Welcome to this video. On this video today we're going to be talking about a band that I've just recently discovered, and it's one of the joys of my life is when I find a band, particularly a band from the 70s who I have never heard and get introduced to, and this album absolutely blew my mind, and I hope it will do the same for you if you go and check it out. I've got some notes here because, as I say, they're a new band to me. So it's a band called Rain, and they were formed in Rochester in New York in very early 1970. The band comprises of a guy called Helmut Ghetto on guitar, who is a phenomenal guitar player. Ted Paris is on bass, Mick Guerin on drums, Brad Morse is the singer, and Gary Kaluta is on the keys. Now, when they were formed, Rochester, apparently, I was never there at that time, but Rochester was a hotbed of musical experimentations. There was many clubs all over the place. There was many bands playing in the local scene. These guys were playing all the venues, and they were supporting some quite big guys. They were supporting people like Ike and Tina Turner, and they were supporting people like Canned Heat. So they had a really good reputation. They released one album in 1970, and it was a live album. It was called Live at Christmas Night. Now, this album was never even meant to be released, actually, but they had recorded the gig, and then when they listened back to the tapes, it was so good that they decided to release the album. Now, I've got to say, I've never actually managed to hear this album yet, but I on good authority, I've heard it's an absolute rocker, a real banger. They went in the studio then to follow up with a studio album in 1971, and they recorded a load of tracks, and then for whatever reason, that album never got released. That album has been left on the shelves. It got lost until finally in 2020, the tapes were found, not in particularly great condition. They refurbished them all up, or is that the proper word? Anyway, they got them sorted and released an album called The Lost Album in 2020. Now, they only released 500 vinyl records, and that was on the Jargon record label. So I'm guessing it's a fairly rare album. Now, the 70s was a very experimental time, of course, for music. You know, people coming out of that whole blues explosion and psychedelia stuff from the 60s, and the influences on this album, I think, are actually pretty obvious. The blues, certainly, guitar rock blues, without a doubt. But, you know, there is Cream in there, there's the Stones in there, Jeff Beck's in there, maybe 10 years after, the Rockers. And it's obvious when you listen to it. But these guys, I think, have actually done something, and I've never heard anybody talking about this album which has mentioned this, but I think a lot of bands have been influenced by this album or by this band, because for me, I can hear the beginning of the punk thing here. There's a real punk energy in these songs. Well, I ain't got no money to call my own. I ain't got no money to call my own. And if you listen to them, you kind of go, hang on a minute, that's like the New York Dolls. Or, do you know what, there is a proper, almost garagey, punky vibe about this, but it's blasting rock and roll music, and they were all influenced, by the way, the guys were all influenced by classic rock and roll, and then obviously the stuff from the 60s. But yeah, so it's absolutely banging rock and roll. Mixed with really heavy blues, with great singing, great guitar playing. first class album actually, but I still get a bit of punk coming through, and I think that's brilliant to hear a band. There's a couple of tracks in particular where I just go, my God, that's a New York Dolls. So it's really, really interesting. So I think what we'll do is we'll get, have a wee listen to a few of the tracks here and just give you a little kind of insight into the brilliant guitar playing that's on the album, the amazing singing, some of the more kind of out there bluesy, psychedelic kind of vibes in it, and I hope that you'll be able to. The album, by the way, it's not on Spotify. I cannot find it on Spotify. I don't think it's on Tidal. I'm sure there's some vinyl available somewhere if you hunt it out. But the whole album is on YouTube, so it does give you an opportunity to listen to the whole album, and I do hope you do. The first time I heard this, it just blew me away, and that was literally just weeks ago. I hope, guys, that you will subscribe to the channel and get more of this information, and hopefully introduce some new artists and albums to you, particularly related to the 1970s, which is my era really. And if you subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell, I would be immensely grateful. I'm just trying to build the channel up. It's a bit of a hobby for me. I'm really enjoying doing it. One of the things about doing this actually on YouTube is it kind of makes me sit down and really listen to this music, which is brilliant because there's an end product that I need to produce. So anyway, my name's been Kenny, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.